What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Cover Band Confidential Podcast, the podcast for cover band musicians and band leaders to learn some new tricks and to find a better way. Here in Atlanta, Georgia, I am Adam Johnson.
And here in the imminently soggy Greensboro, North Carolina, Dan Ray.
I don't know who's going to get wetter.
Well, this morning, so we're talking, of course, about Hurricane Florence, which has been headed toward the coast of North Carolina for the last few days. A friend of mine referred to it as, sort of likened it to being stalked by a turtle.
Yeah. It's coming for you.
It's coming. And for some time, the projected track took it literally over my house.
Yeah.
And that has changed, and we're now going to get brushed by it in such a way that it's going to turn north and miss Atlanta. I think Atlanta's now going to get maybe some rain, but
right.
The projection is it's going to turn north and catch us on the corner of that turn, and we're going to get like 3 or 4 days of decreasing, tropical stormness.
Fantastic.
So that'll be a moist weekend for sure.
We had
Band-Aid called it moist weekend.
Hashtag moist weekend. We had this conversation earlier. It's like, we should probably get this done on Thursday, just so there's power at our respective houses.
Who knows?
Another first with the podcast this week is I am drinking coffee because we are doing this at 9 a.m.
Because we're both unemployed slackers.
We are underemployed.
There you go.
Or aspiring entrepreneurs who haven't quite caught their break yet. That's
right. I will say, because some people have been asking me, and have evidently generated some interest and compassion among our listeners. Mm-hmm. I did 2 technical interviews yesterday. I'm scheduled for in the last week. I'm scheduled for a final interview with one of them next week, and the other probably will happen. I expect to have 2 offers for 2 excellent positions in the next week or 10 days. So
that would be fantastic.
They're moving fast for me. And both of them would be just great things that I'd love to do. I'm very interested in both of them. So
awesome. And the consulting business is off to a good start. I've got some base clientele and had a meeting for small business to maybe take over their technical support. And I've also, I'm doing assessments as well and taking interviews for jobby jobs as well.
There you go.
But it was nice. I went downtown and met with my client for, 15, 20 minutes. And then I went and had Hattie B's and drank a beer at lunch.
I love it.
Because I can do that now.
You can do that now.
And hot chicken is real life, you guys. If you haven't gotten on the hot chicken train, you need to do it.
And is this an Atlanta thing, hot chicken?
Well, no. Hattie B's, hot chicken period is a Nashville thing.
I see.
It was pioneered by a couple of restaurants, one of them being Prince's. It has been commodified. That's why they have like Nashville hot chicken at like KFC now.
I see.
But Hattie B's kind of took the kind of the gritty OG component and dolled it up and branded it really well. And now they've got locations all over the country. But they opened one in Atlanta very recently. And I happened to be in the neighborhood, and it was very good.
Very good. All right. Of course, my Atlanta guilty food is the Varsity.
We don't do that.
Don't you?
There used to be a Varsity maybe like 2 miles from my house. And I went there, I think, once because at the time my 4-year-old wanted to go. It
is the most appalling greasy burger you'll ever have, but it's delish. And the tradition of the place, of course, you walk in, the guy behind the counter saying, "What do you have? What do you have? Yep. What do you have? What do you have?" That's their thing. What do you have?
That is definitely their thing. And it is definitely a rite of passage. Mm-hmm. It is an Atlanta institution. Totally. But it's an institution in the way that like it was there before things were good. And things are much better now, but it's still there.
Yeah. Their fries are good.
Their onion rings are stupendous. That's the biggest thing going for them. But I you would go on your way down to a Braves game or a Georgia Tech football game. But that's, I haven't darkened their doorstep for any reason in the past probably decade.
It's interesting. You can tell that Adam and I haven't spoken for a while.
Yes, it's true. We tried to make last week work, and I made that announcement that there wasn't going to be an episode this past week, and the response was overwhelming in a surprising way. People were really upset that you didn't get to listen to two morons
talk about burgers,
run their mouths for an hour.
We're 5 minutes in so far. We covered weather and burgers.
Yep.
Well, listen. So let's combine at least one of those topics. You know, what's a bummer?
What's that, Dan?
Shows are canceled for weather.
That is true. We've been dealing with that a lot too.
Yeah. I had a show with Viva La Muerte on Saturday at the Raleigh Museum. It's Bug Fest. It's this whole big bug-related, as you can imagine, festival. And
Greensboro just does not have a lot going on, do they?
Well, this is Raleigh, actually. So
okay, even worse.
But it's at the Natural History Museum. It's like a big deal, and they had an all-day music thing, and we were going to open it, and it was going to be many thousands of people, and they canceled it on like Tuesday.
Drag.
Super bummer.
So actually, that brings up a good topic. What do you guys have as a rain contingency? Do you have a contingency in your contract?
Well, we have stipulated that it is in our contract that there'll be cover from the elements. So in a lot of cases, that might mean sunscreen. It might mean not the SPF. I mean like a shade over the stage area.
They just give you like a tube of copper tone.
And it's just one of those things you just want to talk through with the organizer of the event and just make sure they have a plan, because they don't always. We're going to be playing a place in a couple of weeks that is, I've never seen music there, but apparently they do it. They advertise it, but I've never been to their music events. It's a restaurant in Kernersville, North Carolina, which is about halfway between Greensboro and Winston-Salem. And the plan is that the band plays in the parking lot, and the fallback plan is in the dining room. And the dining room is tiny. If that happens, we're going to need to bring the electronic drums, because there's no way our normal acoustic would be livable in that room.
All that direct, though, you have the versatility to do that.
Absolutely. Exactly. Yeah, that's the beauty of going direct, is you can play in a tiny space, and you can dial it down to where you are the volume of, like a loud home stereo or something. And it works really well. So I don't have, so to answer your question, I don't have anything in our standard contract about that, aside from saying that we'll be, that when it describes the physical space of playing, that will be covered from the elements. But it is always a conversation you want to have. Just always. Yeah,
absolutely. We have a very, very well spelled out weather contingency component in our contract. We just had a couple of close calls and some issues where gear could have gotten really messed up. Yeah. And so I did a deep dive on weather contingency for outdoor events and put in a very, very specific one. The general gist is we get to make the call whether we play inside or not. Every event that is scheduled to be outdoors has to have an indoor contingency. And, we also have temperature restrictions. Mm-hmm. If it's above a certain temperature or below a certain temperature, we ultimately have the discretion. And we've gotten some pushback on it, but every time that we have had to exercise that, it has saved us. I had mentioned a gig a couple of weeks back where they really wanted it outside, and we're like, we have to have an indoor option. And they were really hesitant to do it, but sure enough, on that day, it poured. And the indoor option was this massive, beautiful hall with 30-foot ceilings and room for everybody. And I was like, this was the worst case scenario. Yeah. We're in there and it's air conditioned and it's gorgeous and it sounds amazing. And we're like, yeah, this works. And there's a soaked, drenched stage with a tent outside.
Right.
So the thing that really stinks is for those of us who do the acoustic dates. We very rarely get contracts for those things. Yeah. And I saw one that a friend of mine sent me, who's a fan of the podcast, that was really unfortunate. Just the rain contingency payment schedule. It puts all the owner of the venue has all the leverage, and he got everything set up, got soaked and didn't make a dime, which is really unfortunate. So be sure that you know those things ahead of time before you take those kinds of gigs, especially if they're outdoors.
Right. For sure. I mean, and especially, a bar, a club or something like that, there's probably not a contract involved. So it's really a matter of talking it through and making sure everybody's on the same page.
Yep.
And in some ways, not having a contract and that sort of thing is helpful because you can stand by your guns about what's going to work for you, and you're not bullied into something that you agreed to before, when it wasn't an issue and you thought, it probably would never come up. So it works out. It works out sometimes. Just but as with anything else, it's about communication. It's about having standards for what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do, and then communicating those and sticking to them.
Yeah, it's also, it's going to be trial and error because, you'll think you'll have something sealed up and in writing, and then you realize, oh, wait, no, this doesn't quite work. We'll have to tweak this language and that kind of thing. Like I said, we found out because we just had some close calls. And so that required us to kind of go back and revisit.
Right.
So it's a never ending process.
Totally.
So
you mentioned we had a question from listeners.
Well, yeah, I had somebody reach out via the Cover Band Confidential Facebook page, which we do check all the time, and you can send emails to or DMs, and it was around pricing, and it was specifically it was a band who had reached out to us previously, asking about pricing for weddings.
Yeah,
and they were asking about how to approach that. And I had said that there's really no magical formula to it. And then I totally ignored what I just said and told him what the formula was. Because and for me, I told him what we make and he was like, holy crap. But that's just, it's market based. It's, it just depends on where you are. But what I suggested was, you are bringing production, which is an added, cost for, both you guys, the band, and the person who's running the event. So I said, you need to find out what a good payday feels like to your guys, multiply that by the number of people that are going to be in, performing or working, add on what you think is a reasonable amount for production. And that's going to be either your going rate or what I would say would be your floor.
Yes.
As far as pricing goes, that's the barrier for entry. So you don't want to go below that, but you may want to start a little bit above that, or maybe a lot of bit above that, just so you have some room to negotiate. Because I know what I have to pay my guys and what it should cost to do that kind of thing. And we are fairly above that, but just so that we can be flexible with customers. And they had asked if they should put it on their website. And I personally don't agree with that approach. Now, not everybody agrees with me. And there are plenty of bands that have like tiered service levels
I'm prepared to devil's advocate on that one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, here's how I've seen it done really well. And it is what you just said. I have seen bands put up sort of three options, the bronze, gold, silver packages, that are priced.
It's you got to do gold, platinum, platinum plus.
Well, yeah, yes.
Gold, platinum, diamond.
Yeah, sterling,
high end,
sterling, silver. Yeah, right, exactly. Diamond,
rock, paper, scissors.
Exactly. Larry Moe Curly. The benefit of this is people can, and then the idea is you might never just straight bill even one of those. It's a place to set people's expectations for what to pay, and to a few things happen. One is people who are not ready to pay your price will select out of even starting a conversation with you, which is valuable in terms of your time.
Sure.
That's one thing. The other is it starts a conversation with them about really what they want, and you've given them a page full of suggestions, and you make it clear on that page they can mix and match. They can design a custom package. I know of bands that have options in terms of how many pieces they can bring. Are they going to have a cue guy? Are they going to have a horn section? And they can price it out accordingly. And And then be clear with the customer. The selection of personnel impacts the song opportunity. The selection of songs we can have. We're not going to do September without the horns or whatever. Although I really want to, but that's a whole other conversation. So I think it's valid if you choose to do it, to put pricing on your site. You just need to be clear that it's going to disqualify some customers, which is not a bad thing. But it will reduce the number of raw contacts you get. And you got to be ready to handle people's expectations, to defend your value, and to have it be a jumping off point for a much bigger conversation.
Yeah. The other thing that they were asking about is to price it out individually on the website. And again, I had suggested that was not a good idea, because
service by service.
Like the band costs this, the production costs this, the lights cost this, like breaking it down completely.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, because what that does is it just gives the client the motive and opportunity to nickel and dime you on what it is you're charging for.
Yep. Do we really need
in
all
most
that production?
cases,
do we really need? Yeah.
Right. And those are typically arbitrary prices anyway.
Right.
So what we typically do is when we get an inquiry, either from gig masters or from the website or whoever is approaching us, we say we cost this much. That includes sound, lights, sound engineer, and that's what it says. And actually, we're in the process of doing a negotiation right now, which is for it's like a frat party kind of deal, and it's a Thursday night, and they want us to play until like 2 a.m. On a weeknight. So it was like, in the pricing, they couldn't hit our regular price point, but what they will probably get is if the deposit comes through and it clears, they'll get a 4-piece, minus one of the vocalists, because they have jobs. Right. And, it'll be a slightly different set list because of the pricing constraints.
Right.
Now that varies. And for us, it just gives us the ability to kind of move parts around and, like you had said before, justify our value.
Yeah. And
you should know what you're worth. Make sure that you aren't selling yourself short and taking gigs. If you're sticking your neck out to do private events, that is a premium service. Whether people want to admit it or not. If you're bringing in production, you're providing the entire show, that's a premium service.
Yeah.
And so make sure that you are getting what you are worth so that your time is worth the effort.
Yeah. Now, and I can hear a question that'll be out there after you say that, Adam, which is, well, what am I worth? Right. And I think it's important to remember, this is capitalism 101, right? You are worth exactly what the market will pay for you.
Right. And also on the flip side of that, you are able to set your own price.
Absolutely. That's right. That's right. So your worth is the result of a negotiation between you as a seller and them as a buyer. And so asserting your worth is the key part of your sales process. If you go in there feeling like you're new to this and you aren't sure that you bring what another band might bring. Listen, there are wedding bands in my market here that are in not 5 figures, but very high 4, and they deserve it.
We've got 5-figure bands in Atlanta,
yeah,
tons of them.
I'm sure you do. We might hear that I don't know of. The point is, those guys, they've got a few things figured out. First of all, their show is on lock. They deliver phenomenally every single time, and they've got it down to a science. And the other thing is they have gotten past whatever concern or lack of confidence or whatever might keep any of us from fully digging in on a price. The fact is, at weddings, when someone's getting married is like one of the only few times in their life they're completely not price sensitive.
Well, yeah, not completely price sensitive.
Well, I mean, far, far, far less so than any other time. People spend ridiculous amounts of money on weddings, and they're welcome to spend some portion of that ridiculous amount on me. Happy to have that be how that goes, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But you kind of have to say, here's what that costs, and then be ready to stand for that, and have room to discuss it. I've never, I think a lot of times people are concerned, and this is just sales. This is just general sales. This isn't even necessarily a music specific thing. People are afraid to commit to giving a quote because too high a quote will scare off this fish they got on the line, and too low a quote will probably get them the job, but then is it worth it? Plus, by the way, in a marketplace like ours, underquoting is bad for the market. So
yes,
the same, we're kind of circling back to that thing we've hit a couple of times about should you play for free? You shouldn't, and you also shouldn't play a wedding for $600.
No.
Because it's just bad for the scene, it's bad for the market, it's bad for your peers. You'll make your 600, and you might even get more gigs at 600. But do you want them? Because a wedding is not a simple gig. A wedding has a lot of moving parts, and it's a long.
It is a high pressure situation, and the hours are pretty intense.
It's usually over early. I mean, it's not a 2 a.m. bar gig, but
it could be a 2 p.m.
Easy. Yeah. You could show up at 2, set up, sound check, sit around until 7. That happens all the time.
And so the other thing to think about is, especially when you're talking about like a per member cost, like take that amount and stretch it over what you think the average length of a gig like that would be.
Yeah.
And that very quickly puts into perspective what it is that you are charging people.
Right. Plus a lot of time.
And that's a good negotiating part as well. Like, hey, if you want us to be here at 3:00 and we're going to be, and we're going to be done around, midnight, 5 guys for 9 hours times whatever, per hour, like that's not reasonable, or that's not, worth our time.
Exactly. And factor in your travel. A lot of times there's, the last wedding we did was up in the mountains, 2.5 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
So let me say this too. Consider. That wedding we played that was so much fun a month or two ago. 2 things to say about that. First of all, the photographer, we make buddies with the photographer. Right?
Yes.
Because they're taking great pictures of you. I have a picture of Justin kind of hunkered down with his guitar, singing at a little girl who is just on her face is just pure delight. And standing right behind them is the bride with her hands at her mouth, being, charmed by what's happening in front of her. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is like $1 million picture. We're going to sell so many weddings on the back of this picture.
Yeah. And that's the other thing to consider is like, cool performance shots are one thing, but what you really want to do, and if you go on our website, I've actually changed our banner to some photos that we've gotten from private events where it's not really, they're not pictures of us. It's pictures of people losing their minds, having the best time. And we're in the background.
Yeah. A private event, and especially a wedding, good God, is not about us at all.
So like, that's the one thing that I do see happening. Like, I get pictures from the photographer, and usually they're very happy to give them to you. Sure. You just need to make sure that you credit them when you post them. Yep. But the main thing is you want pictures of people having fun at your shows, because I'd mentioned before about reading this book called Building a Story Brand. And one of the main components is that it's kind of like talking about like a movie script, or like the plot of a movie. Which is like a hero has a conflict and meets a guide to get them through the process. Mm-hmm. So in the grand scheme of things, you as the band are not the hero. Wow. You are the guide.
Wow. Oh, that's cool.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, no, I love that. So that's Joseph Campbell, right? It's Hero's Journey. Boy, I never thought of it like that. That's so cool.
And that's the way that you should posture your band, is that we are here to help you have the best night of your life. Yep. Do the best party you can.
That's right.
And that's man, like as soon as like that, I read that book in 3 days. I completely devoured it, and I've probably been back through it 2 or 3 times. And I totally just gave away like a big part of the book, but
well, I'm buzzing over here because like I'm a Joseph Campbell mythology nerd. So, in advertising, you'll meet your shadow self. You'll come back changed.
Yeah. But that's the thing is that a lot of people, and this isn't just for bands, this is for all businesses. They build themselves as the hero. Right. And that's in your customer's narrative. Yeah. You're the guide. That's genius. You're not the hero. And if you posit yourself as the hero, they're not interested because they want to be the hero because they're the one with the money.
Well, they're the
ones
their
party.
Telling themselves the story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. Listen,
so what I've done.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. So what I've done on our website is I've taken reviews that we've gotten on Gigmasters and email and stuff, and I've put them over pictures of people losing their minds.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing that you see on our website now.
That's good.
Is you see us in the background with people having a great time with something that says, "Thank you so much. We had the best time ever."
Yeah. I did a similar thing for my my one sheet flyer. The front of it is sort of info about us, and the back is now all pictures and quotes from customers.
You may want to flip that.
Well, I mean, it's a piece of paper, right? So the front is whatever one I hand to them first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's the other cool thing about that wedding, just since we're mentioning it. A couple of weeks ago, we played a place in Clemens, North Carolina that is a place we've been a couple of times before, Village Square Tap House. And the couple that we played for came down from Richmond, Virginia for his wedding to come to our show. Mm-hmm. And got a hotel near the bar and came to party with us. So it was really cool. We made a friend and a fan there, and they're traveling to see us. And she sat with the band wives at the band wives table, and they just adored her and insist that they move down to here. And he's gonna be graduating law school pretty soon and looking for something. So he said, "Look, a lot of law happens in Central North Carolina just as much as anywhere else." Anyway, so they're officially buddies, now way beyond customers at this point. So
no, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So what do you have coming up?
Well, would have had this thing this weekend, except for that's out. I have next weekend on Friday night, we're playing a homecoming. We're playing a high school homecoming.
Whoa.
The school that our drummer's kids all went to. Following weekend, I'm off. And then the weekend after that, Monday, October 1st, I have an acoustic gig, the political one that I took. The band's not doing. And then I'm with Viva La Muerte on October 5th. So I got a lot happening over the next few weeks.
Yeah, we're slap full this coming weekend. Fanny Pack Friday is this Friday.
Yes. How are sales?
Pre-sales are pretty good. They're about in line with where they were last time. We have sold out of all but the booths, which there's only 4 of them, and they are the highest price point. We're a little bit ahead of where we were last time, which is I'm optimistic about that.
You have a sense of repeat visitors?
Yes, and then also people who are like, "Crap, we missed the last one. I can't wait for this one." And so I'm hoping that this continues to kind of build steam organically, and we could do these, once a quarter. And depending on where this one goes, as far as numbers, we've been approached by another venue who has a larger cap about potentially bringing it there sometime in the future.
Good.
And we just kind of, in order to really sell that, we need to prove that we can bring our numbers up. Because if we sell out this event, which we may or may not, that would put us within about 50 people above, there would be about 50 more people to grow into this larger venue.
Okay, good.
And then we've got a private event on Saturday, and then potentially another private event this coming Thursday. Our booking has been really strange in this particular season. We were already booking stuff out in 2019, but then November and December dates are kind of there's a bunch in flux, but we've had some people drop out that said they were interested. So there's a lot going on. But 2019 is already looking up. What I'm prioritizing right now is revamping our promo material for next year. I know it's September, but basically with these kinds of groups, when you're doing private events, you're looking ahead to the next calendar year, pretty far up. And depending on the number of gigs we have in December, we may start working on Christmas tunes in the next few weeks. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's good. We have, I don't think we have anything right around Christmas. We're playing the weekend before New Year's, and we're playing New Year's Eve at the places, Village Square Tap House and Tailgaters, which are two places owned by the same guy. Oh, here's the thing that might be interesting to just touch on. So last weekend we played at Tailgaters. Weekend before we were at Village Square Tap House. Both have the same owner, and he loves us. Bought me a shot when I saw him at Village Square week before.
Nice.
And just, oh man, you guys sound great. You always do. You guys are fantastic. And, like really enthusiastic about us. But the Village Square show was Labor Day weekend, and the turnout was not strong. We had some people there, but usually that place is slam packed, and it was not.
Yeah.
And then the last weekend, we were at Tailgaters, this other place in Greensboro, and it was dead. And part of that was there was a big folk festival in town. The Greensboro is the home of the North Carolina Folk Festival every year. And so that was, it was opening night of that. And a really big local artist, well, she's a national artist, but she's from here. Her name is Rhiannon Giddens, was playing that night. And I think a lot of people were at that. Plus the next day was the football season opener, and they were throwing a huge party for that. So that was going to be a big deal. So I think both of those things sucked their Saturday night pretty hard. So I had back-to-back nights at this guy's two places that were way off attendance-wise. And on one hand, so there are two things I want to say about that. The first is, man, can playing to an empty room suck?
Yeah.
And it really takes something to keep your morale up. One of the things I'm proud of my guys about is we never slack off, even when we're the only ones in the room. And it's happened a couple of times. We play as if we're playing to 1,000, no matter who's in the room. So I just recommend that, because otherwise it can get pretty grim. I strongly recommend at least turning it into a rehearsal of your full performance energy.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'm thinking about is, how do I make my next outings at this guy's place, which are end of December, last weekend of December and New Year's Eve, be real blowouts, like really, really a big deal. Because I don't care how much he likes us and thinks we sound good. If we're not delivering, customers to the bar, that's the business that, we can't deny that's the business model.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking now about how to go about marketing those and getting word out for those. It will have been, we're not in so many bar gigs like November and December. So we might be a little bit oversaturated right now. Just, this month, it'll feel different next month, I think. So I got an eye on that. And that's the sort of thing I want to bring that up, because you want to be aware that, their attendance is just their people. We have had very little to do with the attendance in those rooms in the past. They have a big, regulars community in both of those places, and they just didn't turn up that night. And that's not exactly our fault, except that it's going to reflect on us whether we like it or not. So, so it's the kind of thing you just want to know about. Notice when it happens, and take some action to correct.
Yeah. It's the same kind of deal in Atlanta. Labor Day weekend is like a complete, it's the weekend that Dragon Con is. Right. It's also the college football big opener at at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. There's so many people in town, but they're typically all wrapped up in other activities. So we typically, unless you're playing downtown, which is its own logistical nightmare in itself, for a specific event, trying to do ticketed events or anything like that weekend, if you're too far out, is just kind of a waste, because there's just so much going on. And then, we've definitely had those nights. When we first started doing we set up a residence at Venkman's. It was probably 2 years ago at this point. We were there once a month. Nice. And the first two times were awesome. We made great money, good ticket sales. But by the time we played the last one, because we were there so much, like I couldn't cover the spread. I couldn't pay my guys. Yeah. I took a big financial hit on those, and we just had to back off significantly.
Seems
so
like
yeah,
monthly ticketed events in one venue would be a lot.
yeah, and it was their idea. They were just getting started, and it was kind of a learning experience for both of us. That one just kind of stung a little bit,
Sure.
and it really kind of forced us to look at why would people come see us once a month? Like, what do you have to offer?
Yeah.
And so that's when we started dealing.
Is it a new enough show every month?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the birth of Fanny Pack Friday was actually what can we offer that's unique from what we normally do. That's kind of fun and different, and the branding around it is really what I'm proud of, and I think that's what is selling people to go to those shows. And you had talked about maybe franchising it. Maybe you and I can have a little offline conversation, and I'll hook you up with the branding. You guys can do a Fanny Pack Friday up your way.
Sure. Yeah, we're working on right now a show that sort of targets kids and families. Maybe like a Saturday afternoon something. We don't have the details of that worked out, but yeah, I want to be headed into sort of bigger events that we put on, and so yes, you will. I'm not sure I'm not ready to schedule anything, but I like the idea very much.
Well, and like the kids' music market is crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't really realize that. The way that it was kind of set up, we got XM and there's a kids station, and like all these bands that have kids albums, and they don't press them. The biggest one, honestly, it's two. It's the Verve Pipe, like the Freshman guys.
Wow.
And the lead singer of the Presidents of the United States of America has a kids music project called Casper Baby Pants.
Yes. Oh, I love it. Yes.
And they're really good songs.
It's fantastic. Yeah. The other kids albums I really love are the They Might Be Giants ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
So good.
And when this was another kind of Venkman's members only kind of crossover, we were doing an event there, and there was an early show for, I think it was like the Jewish Film Association, but they were doing like a kid friendly event. It was like a fundraiser for the festival. And when we got there, we had just done our sound check, and we were putting stuff away and hanging out, and we went back into the green room. And what I didn't know is that there was an act that was going to play called Andrew and Polly. And I didn't put two and two together immediately, but I went and said hi and shook their hands. And my wife goes, these are the grapes people. And they have a song called, I'm like the chorus is, I'm going to go home and I'm going to eat some grapes. And it's a catchy song. And she's like, this is the grapes people. And I straight up fangirled so hard that I think they were like, well, they were definitely surprised.
Yeah.
But we sat and talked shop for like, I don't know, an hour and a half, and they were the nicest people. That's cool. And they gave us free merch and like totally hooked us up. And I got to go home, and I was like, told my 6-year-old, we met the grapes people, and they had la 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 grapes shirts, and we were like real cool for a minute.
That's awesome.
So it's
I think at our show we're going to mostly play our normal stuff, probably cleaned up a little bit.
Sure.
We might pick up, Baby Shark, do. But
yeah, that's having a resurgence at the moment.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It's unavoidable. I actually was given as a matched set a pair of T-shirts that are Baby Shark and Daddy Shark.
Nice.
So we wear those sometimes.
# dad stuff.
Oh yeah. So the point is, it's going to be, just our fun dance party stuff that, I don't know, kids won't know most of it, but they don't care. The most fun shows I've ever played, there've been like half a dozen 4-year-olds bopping around the foot of the stage. So we'll market it, and we'll I'm thinking about selling a family size ticket.
Yeah.
Like a ticket gets in up to 3 adults and up to 3 kids or something like that.
Nice.
For $25 or something. And and then see how it goes. If it kills, we'll do it every couple times a year, or I don't know. Still working it out. I think I have the space figured out. There's a venue here that's kind of brand new, and I know the owner real well, and he's looking to really support performers and acts like that. And so probably his space is where we'll do it. Anyway, that's a thing we're considering.
Yeah, again, there's money to be had there. Venkman's does a lot of kid friendly stuff for on brunches on during the weekends. Like they have a princess brunch that they do, and they'll play like a Disney movie. They do puppet brunch once a quarter. That is super awesome. And basically, it's an excuse for parents to go and have like a long meal, have a couple of mimosas while the kids watch a puppet show. But it's a lot of fun. We've done it a couple of times.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's crucial that you cater to that. I mean, we're going to have a full bar.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We're very clear about that.
Yeah. That's what Uber's for.
Exactly.
Good stuff. Also want to throw out a congratulations to Steve and Alan and all those guys. The Cover Band Central website officially launched.
Yes.
Have you checked it out yet?
I have. It's good.
Yeah, it looks really good. The articles are fantastic. I may have to reach out to Steve to see if any of the CBC articles that we'd written last year would be valuable to them.
Sure.
I set up an account. I haven't, unfortunately, I haven't had the time to really dig in and see what's there. But man, there's a lot of talent on that site.
Seriously.
We talk about, playing a mean game and that kind of thing, but there are groups that are just crushing. Yeah. And, there's a lot to learn. And like he said, once they kind of bring in the tiered system, might get rid of all the ARM folders as they've now been coined in the on the Facebook group.
Yeah.
All the judgy
at
old
the very least, we can have the master global, iPads and music stands thread and not have to rehash it.
Yeah, just sticky it at the top, and if you want, you can just dive in, throw your 2 cents in, and just walk away.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well,
cool.
That was a very Carini, multiple choice, choose your own adventure episode this week.
It was. Ended up covering kid stuff.
Yep. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and call it for this week. From the currently dry Atlanta, Georgia, I am Adam Johnson.
From the imminently moist Greensboro, North Carolina, I'm Dan Ray.
Imminently moist, new band name.
Called it.
You've been listening to the Cover Band Confidential Podcast, episode 23. Have a good week.